Okay, so we're starting the agenda. So as I said, all the equipment that
Yeah, I
was
just spoke
ordered.
with Sage. She's sick
Oh,
today.
okay.
Just woke up about an hour ago, actually. She sounds
Okay.
fairly under the weather, so she won't be joining us tonight.
Okay. Thanks for checking on that, Kevin. I appreciate it. Um, so yeah, so at some point, somebody may want to go into the office and actually take everything out of the boxes and assemble it and assemble the chairs and put them all in place. I think we have chairs, we have a folding table for outreach, and we have a paper shredder and an air purifier and filter, and we have mats for the floor to go under the chairs. So that's our first set. Any other comments on that? I guess that's pretty straightforward. Oh, you're on mute, Kevin.
There. No comment, but I'm sorry I interrupted you before. I had pressed mute on my audio. And so I talked to Sage. And when I came back on, I didn't hear anybody talking.
Oh, no.
So I just jumped in.
Okay.
Duh. Anyhow,
Right.
she's ill and won't be joining us.
Okay. Kevin, do you want to give an update on the bylaws? We know we voted last week to approve them.
Yeah, there are a few things that remain for us to do, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. Let's see here. Let me just recap how far we've actually gone. That could be a fun too. And some of this was already done before I even joined you guys. So it's kind of a thrill historically for me too, to identify the nonprofit's purpose. You guys have had a purpose since I became acquainted with you, and gosh, that's been going on 3 years now. We this year chose the name Community Whole Health Alliance through a fun process of democratic and brainstorming, and I've been really happy with our name, and I'm real proud to be involved with it. We did create bylaws. Some of what we did with our bylaws was created also in group process back in summertime, and I just mostly compiled stuff that we had already done, tweaked a couple of things, and so we have bylaws that will get us going. We have a registered agent. We have our agent. Sage is our agent, and so Sage is the person that will be our official communications channel, and for any formal correspondence between government agencies, or in the event of any legal matters. Sage will be our agent. We have appointed informally our leaders, our interim leadership committee, which is really us. As we move forward with the next steps, we will probably we will need to assign ourselves as a board. We will need to have a board, and I guess I anticipate that some of us will be it. There's already been kind of an agreement in principle along that line. We'll probably have to put that to the floor and have that sanctioned through Robert's rules. We could probably start out with 3, and that those 3 will also fill, excuse me, let me just clear my throat. And those 3 will fill the 3 primary offices on the board: secretary, treasurer, and chair. And that will get us started. Some states would allow you, and I think California might be one, to have one board member. We had considered that, but I thought we came to the agreement that 3 would be a good starting place. And we left it open so that we can add board members if we need to. And so in the future, should we need, I think, to bring somebody in because of their skill or their knowledge or their ability to support us in any way, then we have the flexibility to do that. What's coming up now is that we want to, I need to file for us for an employer identification number with the IRS. So I will this week be downloading the IRS form 1023 and get started on that. That form has a checklist of things to do. I haven't looked at that just yet, but that checklist will guide us to make sure that everything is in our application. And actually, in between that, I think I need to file our articles of incorporation. We have articles of incorporation. They're a really simple matter, really. And so I just compiled that from kind of a boilerplate formula that's determined by the Franchise Tax Board in California. And I will file those articles. And then once we've applied for our tax exemptions, we will need to get our local business licenses, any local business licenses and permits. So anticipate that by just before Christmas, I think I can have all of our forms in for our EIN, file our articles of incorporation, and so I feel like we're on course for probably having our application process completed, submitted, and underway by January 1. It can take a month or 2, perhaps even, for the approval and for us to receive our status. And that would put us in January, February to be an official nonprofit, which is kind of what I've always asked for and always kind of anticipated based on my ability to get done what I need to get done and everything else that I need to get done, and at still a reasonable pace to accompany our progress with our grant. So that's it. I'm open to questions.
Ron or Laura, anything? Thank you, Kevin. I know it's been a process, and I'm really glad you're working on that and that we've all been able to support you in that. And, you know, we couldn't get there without you, I know, and I appreciate you very much. So.
Thank you back. I accept that. And I appreciate the support. I appreciate the meaning and purpose to life that I've been able to find through working with you guys.
Yeah.
It's all new to me, so I don't really have anything to add.
Yeah, it's new to me too, Laura. I'm learning as we go, just as you are.
Ditto.
Yeah. It's our grand experiment here with trying to get this off the ground.
Yeah. I just visited an old friend today, and kind of brought her up to date. And it was really exciting, kind of bringing her up to date and kind of actually giving voice to all that we've accomplished. And of course, potential is intoxicating, but
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned this summer, what was it? It was June that we laid down our strategic plan, right? Wasn't it? So, I mean, it hasn't even been 6 full months yet, 5 months. And look at how much we've been able to put together in 5 months with that intention. You know, we put down, I think it was maybe end of May, early June that we sat down and did a strategic plan. And then, you know, in 5 months, we've been able to write a grant, you know, have a bylaws meeting, get an office, you know, establish this
yeah,
plan. I mean, that's a lot in 5 months. So that's pretty cool.
well, thank you for that perspective. Because I think I always, I'm highly critical of myself and always imagine that I'm really underperforming. And so I appreciate that perspective. Yeah, that's a lot. We have done a lot.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job, Kevin.
Mhm.
Well, thank you,
I mean,
Ron.
it's bylaws, I know a little about it, not that much, but I know it's necessary. And I mean, it's to make it proper, if I use that word. I mean, it's you got to follow some rules.
Describe it like a house. Is it the foundation we're at, or
Yeah.
are we at the framing yet?
That's true.
I'd say we've laid down some of, I'm not sure what all the parts of a house are, but before you frame it, you have to lay down the 2x4s along the bottom that support the framing. I'd say we're there. We might even have a little plumbing in. We might have some of the basic, not the house plumbing, but we've got the plumbing infrastructure.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, that is, Laura, that's good.
If we got the foundation, then we probably have the plumbing too, because that's in the foundation, the beginning of the plumbing.
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, we'd be having trouble.
We've got our feet
Yeah.
down. We've got our feet. We know our layout.
So I gotta pay the property taxes, but hey, we're getting there.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any fiscal agent updates, other than, you know, our fiscal agent was actually who financed us getting our first order of equipment. And so they've, Anna Luisa at Living and Wellness worked with me to finalize and refile the invoice, which got returned to us for some corrections. We fixed what they asked us to and returned it. So we're hoping that to hear from soon, something about that. And we can talk more about that on the grantee liaison meeting update. But stipend forms, I think I've received, I did get yours, Kevin and Laura. I don't know. I think I've gotten Sage's for this month. I may or may not have. Anyway, if there's any more out there, please get them in. For anyone watching this, the recording of this, if you have done any work for the organization for November, the stipend forms are due. Even if you're not planning on keeping the stipend money, we still want to track the hours. And those are to be emailed to the CWHA@gmail.com, and they're going to be put into a spreadsheet so we can track that, the hours. And then they'll be
I'll hammer
put,
on one thing. I'm sorry, I'll hammer on one thing quickly, that if you know somebody that's not with us tonight that has done some volunteer work, encourage them to file that stipend report. And even if they want to contribute their time, because that makes them feel good and helpful and productive, encourage them to accept that stipend and then gift it to us as part of our membership gifting program.
Yeah, actually, Kevin, I was talking about that to someone else too. And I I think Andrea had it on the nose. Because if we were gonna need some funding, to do the things that the, training wants us to do, that money that we need has to come from somewhere before they reimburse us. The training, I'm sure will all be reimbursed, but we have to, you know, buy the ticket or whatever. And
Mhm.
then what I'm thinking is, at least I'm willing to give half of my stipend to, this thing. And I was wondering, do we have to wait to have like a savings account, or that might be something to think about?
Yeah, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but I think what we're doing is um, waiting until we have that tax ID number before we can open an account. So right now we're just using my business account for any monies that come in, and just keeping the money in there. And we were able to cover our rent, and that came directly out of that account. Right now the rent is tied to that account, separate from my personal checking. It's so right now we're just kind of using that as a holding place for our funds, and that's what our Venmo is currently attached to, and our Facebook fundraiser, which I was going to talk about next. So we have gotten almost $300 through Facebook donations, and if you guys share that too, I mean, you guys can share the it was for Giving Tuesday, but you can also, it's still up and running. So if you want to share that, it automatically gets loaded into our account after so many days. And we've gotten 2 deposits so far from that. And then our Venmo account has just had our membership gifting. No one else has donated that I've seen so far in that, but that also is getting deposited into that same account. So right now, I believe our balance is about $515 left in there. And so that's in there for rent in January, which, you know, and then we also have to pay the internet bill as well, which I think
Did
is
we,
65.
did we figure out a phone system yet there? Or there's a phone hooked up here?
There's a phone hooked up. We don't have an actual device, but there is a phone cord that is live right now. So that's got to be something we look into. I'm hoping, you know, right now, well, yeah. So we need to get in there and set up the office, set up the equipment that we have so far. So I don't know if sometime this week, you know, the people that have keys right now, we only have 3 sets of keys. And the people that have keys right now is myself and Kevin and Natalie. And Natalie's out of town this week. So, yeah. So, I mean, it can just stay as is, but I don't know that there's anything urgent that we have to do in the office this week. But we can continue to talk about that. So I put report on the training is from Share. Kevin, did you hear anything back from them about our appointment at all?
Yeah, I did. In fact, Marcus responded to our email this afternoon and suggesting that we meet. Let's see if I can find that. On Monday, the 13th, from 10:30 to 11:15. So that's when our one-on-one meeting with Share Self-Help, which will be also shared with AHP, with the Advocates for Human Potential. So our grant liaison, in other words, will sit in on that meeting with us. He arranges that meeting. He will sit in on that meeting, and we will attend Monday, 12/13, from 10:30 to 11:15. I've asked him to do it with Zoom, and he didn't respond to that. Would it be more than we need to know to go into, oh, no, are we on grant? Are we on G now? Grant liaison? No. We're on TTA. Okay, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So
Yeah,
anyway, yeah.
they go together, so you can go into that if you want. That's fine.
Well, did you want to share anything from the folks with our first one-on-one with our grant liaison?
Yeah, so that was, when was that? That was
Monday, last Monday?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I believe it was myself, Kevin, and Sage met with Marcus, our grant liaison, and his boss, Tammy Bernstein, who is from AHP. We had sent over our questions that we had really extensively went over. We had sent them ahead of time and asked Marcus to include his supervisor in those questions. So he brought her to the meeting. And we tried to get some answers. She was very defensive.
To the point of hostility, really,
Yeah,
must be
yeah,
said.
yeah. I'm trying to say it lightly, but yeah, she was very. She interrupted a lot. Didn't want to really hear our reasons and gave a lot of excuses as to why things have happened the way they've happened. And I don't know that she fully answered our questions, but we did come to some sort of compromise of like we're willing to take their answers and go forward, but we were trying to make them aware of the struggles we've been having, but they seem to not really want to hear that. So I guess the outcome is that we're trying, at least we had one meeting, but we still have questions unanswered. And a lot of those, like especially about the trainings, were deflected to this one-on-one with Share, which this will be our first one all the way on the 13th. So almost 4 months into this grant, we'll be meeting with them. And I guess the meeting with them is to go over the plan that they had us fill out. And to be honest, I just filled it out really briefly and quickly just to get it in. So I didn't really focus really hard on it because I didn't think it was that important. But apparently that's what we have to go over with sharing them. So I don't know if we want to look at it and revise it or think about it before we go in. But anyway, so go ahead, Kevin. Share any further if you like.
Well, you certainly gave the tone. It was one of the hardest 40-minute meetings I've ever been in on, because the headwinds that we faced were really intense. I think we had a list of concerns, and there was some pent up eagerness, urgency, and frustration in that, and they came out swinging. However, at the end, they did, it was, I think, a victory for us, the entire meeting, because they conceded a lot. They conceded, or came as close to conceding, that they don't, can I say the F word? They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Right.
They came as close to conceding that as they can. There were a lot of excuses. That was a huge concession for them to make. But it's so obvious that they couldn't not make it. And they acknowledged that there were a lot of bumps and a lot of things for us to work out, a lot of things for them to work out. And they agreed to continue to work with us on our specific points. We had way too many for that meeting. I'll tell you, that meeting was really scheduled from their point of view as a listening. They talk and we listen. So that really kind of threw a kink in their works. But they did agree in principle to work on our concerns one by one. So if we follow through with that, they also actually, when Andrea pressed them on some of the early information, misinformation, and renegotiation, reneging, really, it wasn't even renegotiated, the reneging that they made on their original billing schedule, Tammy Bernstein agreed, offered us an advance, a funding advance. And that was a huge concession, and she didn't like giving it, but it sounds like she's given it to some others, and there's some precedent. So So I think after getting scolded and demeaned and insulted and not listened to, after setting that aside, I feel pretty good about the outcome of the meeting. Really, because I think we got stable footing with them and to move forward on and leveled the playing field out. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, so what you're saying is basically that they didn't know what they were doing, but they wanna stand up for their cause, or whatever word we want to use. And then we came in and as troublemakers, of course, that you shouldn't tell us what to do because now it's going to be even more problems. So maybe they're starting to realize that, like you said, in the end, they're starting to see that what we are saying wasn't that bad. Because if they just started up this, they don't know what they are doing. And we try to figure out what we are doing. And we see what's wrong on their side, and they try to tell that we are wrong. So maybe
We don't wanna
somewhere
be
we can
wrong.
meet.
We don't, it's not about right or wrong, guys. It's about coming together and trying to put ideas together and
Yeah,
not taking all this so personal. I know the money's involved. I know there's a huge amount of responsibility. But at the end of the day, we're still just human.
yeah, it's a little give and take, it seems like.
Yeah, and in nonprofit work, it is a very fertile ground for conflict. Tight budgets, tight time frames, people with passion and ideals, short staff a lot of time, tight spaces. Look at our office space, it's little. That's just kind of a big part of nonprofit. So yeah, it's always a process of, I think, conflict resolution, compromise, and negotiation. I feel good about it at this point.
Yeah, that's probably, I think it seems like to what you are saying, both felt good in the end.
I
And
felt like it did, really.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Well,
Isn't
go
there a
ahead,
difference
Laura.
between, we're looking at, a different culture, we're looking at more to them than we know, right? And so as urgent as we have it, and we have to have the willingness and the patience to be patient with ourselves and try not to force solutions, I guess I'm trying to say, because forcing solutions never work. So
Yeah, and as John Steinbeck said, and now that you don't have to be perfect, you can be good. Yeah, I think you assessed it well, Laura and Ron. Sure. I gave you kind of the blow by blow because I wanted you to share that, but I still feel good about the outcome.
Well, and I think one of the things that I came away with that initially was annoying or bothersome about the way they handled everything initially, but I think in the end, it really became a benefit to us. And one of those is our scope of work. And so when they put in our scope of work, they deleted all the stuff that they asked us to add. And they have a boilerplate of what they want all the groups to do. It's exactly the same every quarter of every group. It's the same formula. All the groups have to do the same thing. And initially that really bothered me because they asked us to put in the work to add our deliverables that we wanted to the contract, and we worked at it and we added it in, and then they took it all off and sent in the scope of work for the contract without consulting us about those changes. But in the end, I think that is actually going to work in our favor because they took off all of our specific deliverables. We now have the freedom to change our grant and do what we pretty much want
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
So Kevin and Sage and I talked a little bit about maybe shifting our course. And I will share, I don't know if there's a spot further down, so I can just go ahead and share now if it's okay with you guys.
Yeah, please go ahead. I think.
So I met with Scott Kennelly on Friday, partly on behalf of CWHA, but also on behalf of just my advocacy with Campro. But I met with him specifically to set up a work group for the peer certification.
Andrea, before you go into that, could I interrupt you? Would you please take the agenda off your screen so that when
Sure.
you're speaking, we can see your full face? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah,
Thank you.
good idea. So, so basically, the intention of the meeting was to form this work group for SB 803 or peer certification that we've been asking for almost a year now. Yeah, it's been about a year. And he was initially, we were talking about that, but what we came to was a kind of a different conclusion. So we had a really great conversation, and I won't go into all the details of it, but one of the outcomes of that was so I'll try not to be too complicated. So one of the pushes with peer certification is that the Cal Mesa and the people at our grant place, the Advocates for Human Potential, they've all been talking about site certification or having us be peers that can bill for Medi-Cal. And that's one of the reasons they wanted all these new peer groups. So they'd have more people that are peers that are billing for Medi-Cal to grow the peer workforce. Well, after talking to Scott, I came to the realization that that's not realistic for our group within this first year. Because in order to be able to bill Medi-Cal, you have to be a contracted agency with the county, which we're not even close to that right now. And they're not going to do that until they put out, an RFP, and there's a whole process that has to happen before that even happens. And there has to be money invested for the county to put forward to get reimbursement and all that. So and Scott had no inkling that that was even on the horizon, that peer agencies were going to want to bill. He also didn't seem to think that there was going to be any change in the peer billing codes, which we know from our work that there is going to be a change in that. So anyways, there's a bunch of other stuff attached to that. But basically, that point made me realize that maybe we need to pivot in our goal, because when we wrote the grant, we wrote in that we wanted to have 2 peer support specialists start in July and start being certified billing peer support specialists. And we had set aside money for the IT support for that. So my proposal that I spoke to Kevin and Sage about was that we shift that money into something that we can do now, because this project to certify us and get us billing Medi-Cal might take 3 years or more. Might take 2 or 3 years.
From the state level.
Yeah, state level and county level, just to even get on with the county to be able to bill. That sounds like a big, long view tasks. And I don't think using our grant money in this year, that's really going to help us all that much if we don't have stability.
Mhm.
So my proposal, and I won't go into detail, but was to pivot, and instead of focusing on having 2 trained support specialists to do a pilot program for outreach, crisis response, is to instead shift that attention to being a training coordinator for peers for our county and the North State. So Kevin, did you want to add to that at all?
Well, I think a big benefit of that is that seems to be also the direction that is moving by leaders at the state level. At this most recent peer advisory council meeting, one of the leaders from Share Self-Help, who's taking on a lot, he seems to be having kind of Share seems to be having a central role in both the peer certification with Cal Mesa and with the training and technical assistance for the EPOC grant. So he almost sounded like it was self-defense and digging in his heels to say that we should focus, that there's a real need to focus on essential peer services training. And that's kind of where they're going, because they've got this huge ship to maneuver. And that's what they've got in the pilot house already. And so Andrea's brilliant in that all of a sudden we're in the flow with that. And training is something that I know you've always spoken, all of you guys have always spoken about wanting to do. And I love training and I'm interested in training. So it's kind of a quartering wind instead of a headwind now. We've got the wind behind us.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a couple things that we were thinking about as possibilities with that, is that instead of hiring, because we would have that money to kind of shift around in the grant money, that instead of hiring simply a 3/4 time program manager, that we were instead considering taking that position and making it half-time and adding that money from that we would have had for the billing setup into that bucket, so that we could hire two half-time employees. One would be an office coordinator and the other would be a program coordinator. And so that one role would be doing that outreach and coordinating and setting up those trainings. And the office manager would be the one taking care of all the internal paperwork, like, the newsletter and the invoices and all that office stuff, that the administrative work. And so I wondered what you guys thought of that.
Sounds like a smart idea if you ask me. Because I think, especially in the beginning, I think it's a good thing to be flexible. I think it could work out better than in the end. Because if you're just staring down the pipe, yeah, you might lose some on the way. So this is better. I agree.
And I think that, I think that our strength is definitely in training. I mean, in our group, we have a lot of knowledgeable people and a lot of experience in doing facilitating, a lot of experience in doing, Natalie, she's expressed that is her desire to be a trainer. She's been a trainer. I think we've all done some sort of facilitating or training, and we have that as our backup strength. And we also have all trained in a program learning this stuff. So it wouldn't be just that we were the trainers, but we do have that strength within us to know what a good training is.
Mhm.
And that, as Kevin was talking about, us being more as a broker in a way of bringing in all these trainings. Like Laura, you have a whole library you know about, but bringing in these trainers to our community, to the North State, to these northern counties, and setting up those trainings. And it can be a sustainability issue too, because we can have a fee for doing that and bringing in these trainings that would be affordable for counties, but very beneficial to us, right? Because they're going to have to train their peers to get them certified. So if we can broker all those trainings and bring them to them and be that facilitator, that broker that brings in peer trainings. And also, we talked about working with Butte College to develop a training program so that there's continuing education credits, which is also part of the certification process, is to have continuing education credits. So, I think if we put our heads together, we could really build a solid program here, a solid curriculum for not just our county, but for all the northern counties that don't want to have to go to Sacramento or go to San Francisco to get trained. And we could even bring it to them, because we will have equipment that we can go out in the field with.
And the spring farmers market starts in April. That's what, 15 weeks away or so, 12.
Hi, girl.
I'd like to see us get some material for tabling. I also have been messing around just with the image of the CWHA image, and I personally know how to make business cards. I have some that I flew around with. And Ron, I would be interested in kind of meeting with you and kind of getting an idea of what we can bring to it. Like, one of the things I keep thinking about is the CWHA image, and then having big, beautiful cursive over it that says Butte. And I keep seeing it and seeing it in my head, and I just have to put it,
Yeah, use a nice font. Is that what you're thinking of? Yeah. Yeah, there shouldn't be a problem, because if we know what it's gonna say, then we can try all kinds of different
Right.
fonts and put colors to it if we want
Yeah.
that. So that's no
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah,
I hesitate with if you're talking about changing the logo, because the logo was chosen by the whole group and voted on. And so I would hesitate to change that. I mean, I can see adding the word Butte above it or
right.
something, but
That's all I was talking
okay.
about.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't want to override what the group
No.
consensus was. So, and it's,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I like the logo as it was, but if we want to put Butte, I mean, we can put it like in a half circle like this.
Right.
And there's so many
No.
ways you can do things.
Right.
Well, I think it'd be fun to, as we move ahead, to see some ideas, although I feel our commitment to the existing logo is firm, and I would hold firmly to it. I'd love to see what you guys play with. Sure.
Yeah,
It's always fun to
merchandise.
see.
Yeah, I just think that, we also want to use our hours constructively on things that, since all of us have such limited hours, that we want to use it really targeted towards what we need to accomplish.
Well, yeah, that's a super point, Andrea. Ever the administrator, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's essential, really.
And I know design work can get time consuming, and I would hate you to eat up hours doing that when we have other things that are more pressing. I'm not saying you can't, but I'm just saying, if I was looking at it from like choosing between tasks, I would put that as a lower priority. And you guys can override me. I'm just saying my piece.
Well, no, I feel I'm in agreement with you just from what we've talked about the needs, what we need to get done. Yeah, that could certainly be a fun side thing, and it'd be fun to see. But
What
yeah,
what did you
and
have
so
in mind
creative
for-
and fun for you to engage in. But
Yeah, and I don't think there's nothing of that needs to come up right now or anything. So I mean, it could be
No, I just said
for a while.
fun if it's satisfying to you to play, and you
To
can
do
do that
it.
on the side. Yeah, it's
Sure.
very stimulating to work on stuff that's interesting to you.
And it's fun.
That's what, yeah, this had nothing to do with stipend hours or anything. It had to
Okay,
do
yeah,
with,
yeah. I don't mean to be like that. I'm just
No,
trying to
no.
be frugal with our hours.
No,
What a
but,
tyrant! What a tyrant!
I know. Psh, psh.
no, you had expressed, I'm on a committee, I think, right, with Ron? For
Well, yeah,
the-
you guys are doing the research, right? And I had suggested that you possibly get together and come up with a way to organize the research so that it can be like in a file or a spreadsheet or something, so that it's easily accessible for people.
Research of what?
All the research that you've been doing, all the emails, like organizing that information into a file that people can get to.
Okay,
Yeah, that's probably good to have in a folder file.
those-
And you have under.
well, I
Yeah.
remember now, I got all those resources for the Greater Chico Homeless Task Force. And we need to put the addresses and all that. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, all the emails that you've been sending with all the different trainings, all that
Right.
stuff that information can be extracted from the emails and put into a spreadsheet. So that, because the emails themselves aren't getting to all of our members, they're
Right.
only getting to our leadership. And so I would like I mean, you've sent some really great resources,
Thank
but
you.
I don't think our whole team knows about it because it's just in the email. So I would like to see that information be made more accessible somehow.
Well, I did too, and so I asked Natalie about Constant Contact, and she said she knows how to use it, but is that something that we could implement?
I think there's
Isn't
a
that where you
cost. I think
provide the
that,
integrity of the email addresses and be able to,
yeah,
I-
it's a mass mailing application. We use it at Campro. I think there's a cost to it. I think we do need to look into some sort of email aggregation, but I don't know that we have a large enough email list yet to really input into something like that. I don't know if there's a free version of it, but I know that
I
it
know
does
you can
cost.
do it in Excel.
Yeah, Excel would be good for now.
Do-
Or yeah.
Do
I
you
have
know how,
a-
do you know how to drive Excel, Laura?
no, I run.
But see,
No,
what I was thinking is that you could sit with Ron and bring up all those emails, and he could help you enter them into a spreadsheet.
and the
if you
other thing
guys-
that I wanted to mention real quick was that
Well,
Catalyst,
before we move on, I just wanted to, before we move too far from that, I want to hear what you have to say, because as we move into training, all the stuff that you're compiling is just fabulous. But I think what I'm picking up from you, Andrea, is that what we'd benefit from would be to take everything that Laura has accumulated so far and compile that in one place where we can see it and prioritize some areas rather than immediately distributing it across the board,
right?
where we
I
can
feel
benefit from it
I would-
internally.
organizing.
Yeah, I would like to have it in different groups depending on what it is, so it's easy to find.
Yes, that'd be
You
fabulous.
have one head group, and then you have smaller ones, and then you have another head group and with smaller ones in that.
And,
I haven't-
and in keeping with the flow that seems to be happening at state levels, to combine and compile, combine, and isolate the different basic peer training programs, the basic peer services programs, basic peer personnel programs, peer practices programs, so that we could either utilize those, direct people to them, or assimilate our own, synthesize some of our own, and maybe even get Butte involved. So that would be tremendously valuable. And that would be, I think, keeping with the wins, the place to really focus at this time.
Yeah, because I feel like we have a lot of that information in what Laura sent us, but it's all in separate emails. So if I would really love it if you guys could get together and compile. It's all on the Google email, and you could even use the Google Sheets if you wanted to put it in.
I got a question.
Mhm.
Do we want to have on each thing, do we want to have a short explanation what it is within it, or should we just have name, address, phone number?
Right, email address, that's what I'm wondering too. How much, where do we start? Right, like, do we just want to start with something easy like your Facebook page and then be able to go back and add more? Or,
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's, as you guys work on it, you guys will see what you need. I think
right,
I think my parameters would be, what would we need to get a hold? Who is there a contact person?
Okay,
You
okay,
know,
I get the
yeah, like
picture,
what
yeah.
would we need to access that site
Yeah.
or that group
So just
I have-
basically write everything down and then we do changes when
Yeah.
we,
Yeah, you could have a column at the end for notes, you know, if there's something particular you want to remember about that group or some inside information or something
Surely,
particular in the email.
yeah.
Yeah.
surely a
it
2
can
or
be-
3 line
Yeah,
synopsis of what
yeah.
the program is would be really beneficial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Only
can
one I'm
be just a
exposed to
little
is
side info.
Yeah.
the only one I'm exposed to is Crestwood.
Why
So
is-
just as for example, would be Crestwood Peer Personnel Training is a comprehensive training and delivery of peer services from self from peer self-resilience through triage, suicide prevention, and resilience planning for peers receiving service. So that, you know, that would be really important, Ron, to know that. Yes,
Yeah.
it would.
I would say many, maybe not all, but many of them, they usually have an explanation of the services, what they are doing. So we
Mhm.
can basically just copy that and paste, and it's right there.
Yeah.
Then we use their words.
Yeah.
Don't change anything. That could be, if somebody has a problem with words, well, that's what it said on their website.
Right.
So they can't come back to us that we have changed and they don't
Right.
understand, or
And you may want a separate sheet that has a like events, like one-off things, you know, like certain events, because they may be recurring each year. So even if they've passed, you would still have who did the event, when it was, and what the, you know, the name
Yeah.
and all that. So that way it's in there. Go ahead, Laura. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was just gonna say, I don't know if you received one too, Andrea, but I received a spreadsheet Excel, I believe from Share, that listed all the peer support organizations in California.
Wow.
And what jobs, right, would their addresses, jobs they were, and I tried so hard to be able to put it in my head, but the categories are, you know, that's what I don't like about Excel is, you know, you might have an address here and then a phone number over there. So that's kind of how this looks. But for every county, there's different peer support services on this spreadsheet and it's actually for jobs. But we could use that as a,
yeah, we can set it up in a nice way because it should be easy to look at. It shouldn't be like, okay, where's the
I
phone
know.
number? And so that's it just takes a little time.
right,
Nothing hard to do in a way.
right.
But,
And
so,
I like I said, if you wanna hammer out, like, I think Thursday that you're at Iverson, we can, you know, we can hook up and do some work on Thursday if you want.
yeah, if, should you send the thing that you have? Did you have it in Excel right now?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Okay, send it to me so I can take a look at it.
Those fur babies. So yeah, so I'm glad you guys are got a sort of a plan for that. It sounds like, and so if you want to access all the ones that I know Laura probably has it in her email, but all the ones that have gotten to the Butte CWHA are in a folder that says Research Laura. So if you're able to get on the Butte CWHA, do you have the password and everything?
What I said that you couldn't hear was the word no.
Oh, okay. Let me give that to you in the chat, okay?
Okay. I got a pen. I don't have a paper. I can use this.
Yeah, it's peer job listings. There's probably 50, maybe more, from all the counties in California. or 131 listings. How's that?
Quite a few.
Yeah. And like I said, there's email addresses, there's phone numbers, and it all goes like this.
Yeah.
And so I would really like you to take a look at it. I save the file to desktop and attach it to an email, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it happens quite often when you put something in, well, not only Excel, in other things that you're taken from somewhere, it ends up just mixed. It looks strange. And I fixed many of those things and I don't like it, but I know how to do it. Basically, it just have to do with the formatting that they have done. And when you copy it and put it in, now they have 3 ways you can paste it in. So if it doesn't work with the first one, you can try the second one, or you can try the third one. If none of them works, then you have a little job. So I mean,
Yeah, like I said, it was the categories. What categories do we
Yeah.
want?
yeah,
Yeah.
And everything is on here. So
Yeah, everything looks funny in Excel, but the thing that I'm starting to really like about it is how easy it is to organize information. Like it's really quick to like whip out a list and organize it by different categories really quickly. I do like that about it, but it is not fun when you want to look at something and try to find information. It isn't fun,
Mhm.
but you can print it out fairly nicely if you can get it formatted right, like Ron was
yeah.
saying.
And you could actually, if you put it in a certain way,
Hmm.
you can search for things so you just get what you're looking for.
Right, right. You can say, I just want to print X, Y, and Z, and then it
Yeah.
just prints that. So it's really useful in that way.
Yeah, because I did that in 90s when I went through Excel and learned something, and we put up like a mailing list with a bunch of names.
Yeah.
And then we just was told how to get. You just want to send out to 2 names, so you
Yeah.
learn how to do that. But it's a while back, so I
Yeah.
don't remember
Well,
it.
I've been working a lot in Excel lately, so if you guys get stuck, give me a call. I also love how it's great for budgeting because you can just put in equations and then you can change a number over here and it fixes it all for you if you put it in
Yeah,
right,
yeah, it does that. Yeah.
It's really useful in that way too.
when you
Um,
try to print it and it wants to only print one side and not the other side.
yeah,
So
it's how you set it up in the
yeah.
print. It's tricky, but well, let's get forward because it's after 7 and we're supposed to be doing our role play. So I just want to say a couple more announcements and then we can get on with it. So again, I just want to reiterate, I have a coupon for a free calendar that we can build, and I've only gotten a couple pictures. I still think it's a great idea. I'm not giving up on it yet to do a pet calendar of our CWHA friends. So if you're watching this video, please send it to buttecwa@gmail.com. And otherwise, it will just be Ron and Sage through the whole
I
calendar.
have mine. Jake
So-
got his picture taken at Petco.
Okay. So, okay. So that would be awesome. The more we can send in, the better. I will have one. Anyway, other things on the agenda. We still need someone. February is getting closer. I know it's a couple months off, but at least hopefully early January we have someone that can work on our with Sage on the event planning for this meetup in February. It's our quarterly meetup and remember, our meetups are not just for socializing. That is what we do at our meetups, but our meetups are intended to bring in people to meet us. So not just coordinating, not just having fun with each other, but they're strategically planned to be an invitation for people to have that soft kind of introduction to what we're doing instead of coming into a business meeting and hearing all the business. This is their chance to get to know us as people and to bring people in. So, I encourage people to give some importance to the meetups because they are our membership outreach tool. What were you going to say, Laura?
The library has meeting space.
I was
I don't
just
know.
gonna mention the library.
Well, get us on the calendar, guys. I mean, I think Jimmy was going to work on that. Chelsea was going to, somebody was going to work on that. You know, I don't have time. So, you know, I think it's a great idea. And I love that library space and I like its location, has great parking. I'm all for it. So if somebody wants to get on that, I think it's a group consensus that we've all wanted to do the library. So if somebody wants to do that outreach, I'm for it too.
Well, maybe they can be done when they're open,
Mhm.
so people can see there's a sign there. If they're interested, they can just drop in.
And we can get a free advertisement from the newspaper and a PSA and whatever else we need to advertise it.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, library has a note board that you can put up things too.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we have all those options in front of us, but we need to take the steps. So I know we have an outreach committee, but they're not here. So hopefully they're watching this video. Hint, hint. um, okay, just real quickly. So yeah, is there any updates from anyone here? This is the last thing. Any updates on any subcommittees that we haven't covered?
Um, yeah, the only thing I was gonna say is that Catalyst is gonna be doing their new training in June,
Okay.
and that's for a volunteer position of at least 4 hours a week for 6 months.
Okay. And for advocacy, our next behavioral health board meeting, I won't be able to be at. I might be able to come in by my phone, but if someone else can give an update, I know Kevin, did we talk about you possibly taking the lead on the certification update since you're going to be on the? Are you able to do that on the
Yeah, when it,
15th?
on the 15th, is that a Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Wednesdays are good days for me. So let me make a note of that. And
Because I actually will be at a hearing at the Capitol that day. I'll be in and they're doing a hearing on the LPS law. So I'm going to be there for work. So I really probably won't, I might be able to listen in, but I probably wouldn't be in a good position to really speak at the meeting.
yeah, I can do that. I still feel like I certainly follow your lead and your greater knowledge in keeping up with that, but it's a role I'm willing to take on. Sure.
Yeah, so maybe we can meet before then and just talk
Yeah.
about anything that we need to announce or.
Yeah.
And that
Good-o.
goes for anyone watching this video. If you want to do any public comment for the 15th or have anything that you want CWHA to announce for our group, let's meet up before then so we can plan it out and do our advocacy like we've been talking about, like our steps that we do, planning ahead. Okay, I think that's all for the agenda. Were you guys able to access the YouTube links for the advocacy trainings at all? I did put both of the 2 training recordings up on YouTube, and I emailed them. I'm really excited that I I learned how to do uploading to YouTube, and so I have several videos up right now on my YouTube channel.
I did not. I fell behind on that and forgot to even know that.
If you're at all interested, some of these links are public. If you're interested, that video we watched of Sally on advocacy, that really short video is on there. There's also the 15-minute video we made for the state conference. It's unlisted, but if you want, I can share the link. I guess I can make that public. And the outtakes video for the state conference. And then our 2 advocacy videos are on there. And then I just have my podcast that I created for class. It's actually got an interview with Sally and an interview with a woman who publishes a mental health magazine for kids in Singapore. And my friend Jessica, who lives in LA, and talking about the We Rise event, the mental health event in LA. So if you're interested, it's on here.
Yeah, gosh, I wonder if if that's really fabulous. I wonder if we could set up a channel as if the Alliance could set up a
Yeah.
channel and have these available also.
Yeah, I don't see why not. We can use the Butte. I know I should do that. Set up a Butte CWHA channel. Let me write that down. That's a good point. Because then we can put our trainings specifically on that.
There's a lot of Andrew Wagner's on. I was just trying to find your.
Are there
My
a lot of
channel-
Andrea Wagners?
My
Mhm.
channel, if you look up my email, it's Lavoy Wagner.
Okay.
And that might be easier. Yeah, that's a good idea. And I'll put those 2 videos on YouTube. The 2 advocacy videos and the one from Sally.
LAV.
LAVOY. But it's the link is also, I sent it in the email today. So you can click on it.
Yeah, I saw them, but I haven't had a chance. It's all I've had in my head is cars.
Yeah, that's a big deal. All right, you guys. Well, what do you think? Do you want to do some practicing? I know, Laura, you practice with Sage, but did you want to talk about any of the stuff that you guys practiced, or?
We didn't practice.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
If you want to give me a scenario, I can.
Well, I mean, let's say that that we are gonna go to, and I'll put up the slides for you too. If we're gonna go to the behavioral health board meeting coming up, and you're asked to give an update on what CWHA has been doing for public comment, how would you go about that? So let's pull up the slides. Let's see. So that is our ethics part. Okay. And
I think
Oh,
let's see. So the first step really is these are things that we should know, right? Like going forward. So just a brief refresher, because repetition helps me too. So what are the 4 pillars? Do you guys know? Just the general. So what's one of them?
Well, outreach is one of them, but I don't remember them in order. I don't remember them all.
You guys remember? So they're public awareness is one of them.
Is
Which
that,
is-
is this
which-
order of priority? Order?
No, I don't
Oh.
think they're in priority order.
Okay.
So public awareness, fundraising, community or whole health wellness, and let's see, what's the 4th one? I know I'm missing one.
What came after fundraising? Community awareness?
Whole health wellness.
Whole health. Well, wasn't outreach or
I think outreach
public
was
awareness.
under public
awareness. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Do I need to look it up? Let's see.
we should have this like in a little folder with everything.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good.
Yeah, it's on the drive. We should put it up on our wall, like you said. Like,
Yeah, we
Ron.
should have like a transcript or something.
like a poster.
Yeah.
And we can make a cloud out of it.
I don't know what you guys are seeing, if you're just seeing the YouTube screen or if you're seeing what I'm doing.
I'm seeing the YouTube screen and the, yeah,
Yeah.
and the role playing, the role playing
Okay.
video.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think if we have something written down, otherwise, if we're just gonna talk out of our heads, I think we're screwed.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, I was just trying to put you guys all on the spot
Yeah,
to see if you
because,
remembered, because I can't even remember them all.
yeah, no, so that, so if we have things on paper and then we can, if we are gonna talk, we can write down what we're gonna say, and
Yeah,
we can also have what they probably gonna ask about, so we are prepared with answering questions.
Yeah, well, that's
Right,
what
you are.
this is about, right? And that's exactly what we're doing right now, is trying to practice that, building those questions, building those answers. So I'm just reviewing really quickly.
Is peer respite a
It's
pillar?
I just looked and I'm embarrassed I didn't remember, but it's advocacy.
Oh,
Yeah. So
so
yeah.
are you talking about knowing the pillars as it relates to what the topic is being discussed at the board
no, I'm
meeting?
just saying these are things that that we as advocates working within CWHA should know. Like these are just things we should know about CWHA, bare minimums.
Okay.
So we should know what our 4 pillars are. And I am just the same boat. I couldn't remember all 4 either because we don't talk about them enough, but they should be at our forefront. Like if someone asks us, what are your goals of CWHA? We could say, well, our 4 pillars are advocacy, fundraising, public awareness, and whole health wellness.
Let's I'm assigning this. I'm not good at graphics, but how about if we had a graphic up for the beginning of our meetings where we played our little introductory music and mood music, and we
Right.
have our 4 pillars up there at the beginning of every
That'd
meeting.
be great, yeah.
And that's a kind of,
Yeah, I could do that. Or anybody else could. I don't need to take it on. I mean, if someone wants to do that, Ron's good at that stuff too. So is
Well, since you were talking, I did another thing, which was good that I did. And I'm gonna tell something that you had no idea about. So let me read it for you. What? Okay, I pressed the wrong buttons. Okay. I talk about transcription. Most of the YouTube videos are automatically transcribed using Google speech recognition technology. Click on the More button below the video and select Transcript from the menu. Below, you'll be asked to select the language. Make your choice and you'll see a full transcript with timestamps. Wasn't that pretty good that I came up with that?
it was slightly digressed from Andrea's point.
Oh,
I'm having a hard time following, Ron.
oh, well, I haven't looked into it, but there is from YouTube, it's transcribed. Most of them are transcribed automatically.
Uh-huh.
And it seemed, I don't know if it can come up in text. He didn't say that. I haven't had a chance to really look around.
Well, they do have closed
Scroller.
captioning.
It goes by.
They have closed captioning, but to Andrea's question, I'm sorry to drag you off of that.
No
Would you be
problem.
able to work out a little graphic that we could post at the beginning of our meetings
Yeah.
that showed the 4 pillars, and then we could, probably play a little mood
Put
music.
it on the background.
Oh, okay. So if we have something that like comes up from here, you have one that comes up and it disappeared, and the next one comes up. And
No, I'm just thinking of a graphic
Just
that just
4
shows the 4 pillars. Just
oh, okay.
a
So
single graphic.
Yeah, it can be
I
done.
mean, yeah, I mean, a dramatic graphic like that would be cool. But no, I was just thinking of
Okay.
just for example, in the same way that the background that Laura's using now, if we
Yeah.
just put that poster up at the beginning of a meeting and played
That's
music
what I
while
would-
people were coming
Yeah,
and
it can
joining.
be done.
That's
But
what I was gonna do. I was gonna take the CWHA background and put it behind me, which is something
that-
that actually I can do.
well,
right
that'd be
now.
cool. But I'm just thinking about a lead-in graphic. And Andrea, would you feel like they want to be prioritized
Mm-mm.
or just, no, not
No, I
necessarily?
don't think they're prioritized. So I put the PowerPoint and the outline of the strategic plan in the chat box if you guys want to have a copy handy. But it's also on the drive.
Because I don't mean to digress. In my mind, they kind of flow from public awareness to advocacy to whole health wellness, and then finally fundraising as kind of the fourth. But I don't know. They don't have to be in my order. They surely don't. How can I drag these to my
There should be, when you like hover over them, it should say click to open, and then
Oh,
it will
click.
download.
click to download? Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you.
You inspired me, Laura.
Yeah. Oh, you did it. Good.
Yeah, I got to make
Yeah.
a better one though that's like has it up here in the corner.
That's exactly what happened to me is that's where I stopped because I couldn't make it into a business card size because of the graphic. And I don't know I don't know fractions. So you got to do like 2.5 by, and you got to know this, and I don't know it. So I was just hoping that I could, cut and paste, whatever works, right?
Yeah, the graphic itself that we're using is not the best. You see how it's all pixelated because it's just a screenshot, so it's really low resolution. What we need to do is what I'm hoping when we get our website developed, that the developer can give us a vector in high definition of our logo, and that will be what we can use on all of our stuff. And then we can also have a variant that's a box size, because this is our banner size or proportions. We need a box size proportions, and it's just a really basic logo, which I could build, but I don't have time. So I'm hoping that when they do our website, they can do that. So okay, so let's go back. So we're supposed to be doing our advocacy training. So let's go back. So let me put back on the screen, and I won't push you much longer. I just wanted to go through this. So this is at the end of number 2 on the YouTube video. The other thing is, could you, if somebody asks you what the grant was about, could you in a couple sentences tell them what we're trying to do? And maybe that's different because we just talked about changing it, but maybe that's something we can work on. What do you guys think?
Would you like to brainstorm that just now, you mean?
Yeah, is that something we want to talk about right now? If someone says, hey, what's this grant you guys got about? What is it for?
Sure.
What would you say?
Well, it basically
It was given.
Go ahead,
Well-
Ron, you started.
Well, yeah, well, it's basically going in what we want with the group, which is part of the 4 pillars, basically, but we add the community, and we talked about Butte County as a whole, and my brain is gone.
Okay, so you got it's community project, and it goes out into the
peer
outer parts of the
support,
community.
peer support, and we're gonna have more peer support, taking up training, and we talked about Butte College, and we're gonna have 2 people that works part-time, half-time, you said, that we're paying for, and but it's all on volunteer basis. Stop
And-
my brain.
Well, no, that's okay. Those are all really essential components of our plan. If somebody just asked you, Well, what's the name of our grant? Let me play it this way. I'll kind of role play it. I'll ask the leading questions and see if it leads us to answers. What's the name of the grant that you just got?
Epoch grant.
What does epoch mean? I
Well,
don't understand those
no,
acronyms.
yeah, I understand. Let me talk to my assistant, Andrea Wagner. I think she has the name for it.
I'll get back to you.
Oh, you know what? I think I may have heard about that. Is that expanding peer organizational capacity? And yeah, I think I heard about that. That's that expanding peer organizational capacity grant, isn't it?
Yes.
And go ahead and take notes on this, guys. Feel free to take notes, because I think, what's the name of the grant? What's the purpose of that grant? Well, capacity building is the answer. Capacity building for emerging organizations.
Capacity building, that is probably gonna raise another question. If you just answer that.
So how
Well-
could you explain it? Like
well,
if
what do
somebody
you-
asks you what that is?
What do you mean capacity building?
I can't explain anything today.
Okay, that's okay.
Community
That's
that-
okay. Would you, I'll take the other role, let you off the hook. I can. So, well, capacity building means that we can develop ourselves from a grassroots informal group to be a full-fledged peer-run organization in our region, and really even achieve nonprofit status and the ability to provide training and peer services for whole health, for mental health and substance abuse. And even one of our dreams would be to move into providing peer support in healthcare and recovery.
That's a good answer.
Gee, that's great. Well, God, how much did you get? And where'd the money come from? Well, this money came from the Department of Healthcare Services. So it's a state level grant, and we received $199,600 to do this work. So there's your introduction. That would be, C was really pleased that we received an EPOC grant in September to expand. That's a grant from the DHCS, from the Department of Healthcare Services, for expanding peer organizational capacity. And we're using that to build organizational capacity of our grassroots group. This year, we named ourselves the Community Whole Health Alliance. And we plan to use that $200,000 to establish ourselves as a valid and viable peer-run organization in Butte County. So there's just a kind of a quick overview of what the grant is. What's the name of the grant? What's the purpose of the grant? Who gave the money? How
The
much
way-
did you
the way
get?
that you said it would be perfect to have on paper, because it was really good.
Well, yeah, I could codify some talking points. I'd be could do that.
That'd be
Sure.
great to have for anybody just to have as a reference.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea, Ron. Yeah, I'll do that.
We could put the questions on Quiznet, like I'm gonna start doing.
Yeah, because my,
we-
like, if it is like it is today, my brain is on lunch, so.
Well,
was-
and you know what you reminded me of, Ron, is something that somebody said one time, a really successful person. If it's worth remembering, it's worth writing down. And so I'll do that. And believe me, whenever I go to talk about something, when Andrea and I went to the advisory board last week, I mean, I wrote notes down by hand. I just wrote them down so that I'm not just flying blind by my memory.
Yeah, no, I've
fact,
done
I was-
that too, and I have something, so.
In fact, I was going by notes today that I just this moment that I wrote down. So yeah, I'll come up with some talking points on the grant. Well,
Yeah. I
do
think
we,
if we remind ourselves, if Ron, if you said you were going to build just a graphic of the 4 pillars to have at the beginning of our meetings, so
Yeah.
that will help everyone remember those. And then,
Yeah.
you know, Kevin will write a talking point for what the grant is and, you know, what we need to know, our basics. And then, you know, the vision and mission statement is also in the strategic plan. So maybe we can have that at the end of our meetings.
you know, Andrea, I would almost I would reorder these to as a little presentation. So if somebody says, well, who is what are you, Chihuahua? What is that? Well, no, we're the Community Whole Health Alliance. Oh, well, that's great. Well, what's that? Well, you know, our vision, our community, the Alliance vision is, does anybody remember the vision that, I think Keith coined this, and I think it's pretty succinct and it's pretty good. A community where all fit and all embrace humanity. That's our vision. That's what we'd love to see the world become. Community where all fit and all embrace humanity. I don't remember our mission statement exactly. I could go to that.
Yeah, I
But
think
we
it's
will-
a little harder to memorize the mission statement, but if we just have the gist of it, I think we would be good. So what I remember is it being a group of people that have a stake in mental wellness in Butte County who prioritize whole health through basic needs and peer support and through accountability and advocacy in the mental health community.
Well said, yeah. And so that's our mission. That's more than a statement. That's our mission. Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think just
yeah.
knowing those basic facts, like even if you don't get them perfect and if you know the gist of it, I think that will help you be really strong in describing what we do and who we are. You know,
Is there some place where I could probably draw that material out of all the materials that I inherited from you guys to develop that vision and mission statement and forward that on to Ron? That could be another graphic that we could use as we open up a meeting.
and it's
Um,
all in those files that I put in the chat there. It's in the strategic plan files, those 2 things.
I can make some squares that look nice with the things in it that needs to be said there.
Let me ask Ron, because I'm still really kind of behind the curve on using the drive. Are you familiar with using our Google Drive, Ron?
the Google Docs? I can use it when I'm at work, but
Uh,
not at home because I don't have Microsoft Office. I'm a cheap bastard.
No,
So
I'm talking about our Google, the CWA Google Drive that we access, that you can access from any uh, Google page, any Google search page.
from the little I've done now, I haven't had any problems, but I have to
Okay.
look in more to it.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because all the information Andreas has placed there. And so rather than me just throwing another thing in your inbox, in your email inbox, if you're able to go to the Google Drive and pull that information out for the graphics, great. If not, I will get you the information by email. What would you prefer?
Hold on. Well, if you send it in an email, that is always good because then I
Okay.
can when I get emails, I send emails between home and work,
Ditto.
vice versa also, because something that doesn't work here for me, I have to pick up a job. And sometimes I do something at work and then send it here. So
Okay, sure. I'll email it to you at your home email that I have on our mailing list, our CWA mailing list.
Okay, before we leave, I'll just go to the next slide, which is, let's see.
mucho importante.
So again, if it's outside of those talking points that we just discussed, just make sure that you're not representing just yourself, that it's something that we've all agreed upon in our meetings. It's not just something that you believe or that's on the spot, because we want to make sure, again, that we represent our agency accurately and our alliance and not just ourselves. If we're talking CWA.
I could give an example of that. I'll give an example that I'm reminded of from Sage, and this is not an attack on Sage, and she's not here to defend herself. But for example, one of Sage's big dreams, and I think this is a marvelous dream, and I support this dream, but it's to have 40 trained peers. And that's Sage's dream. That's not a CWA position or a CWA objective yet, to have 40 trained peers. So for example, let's see, what would be a personal example of mine? Well, a personal example from mine would be, I would love to have us receive a grant from the California Endowment, which is a health related foundation to support programs. Well, that's Kevin's dream. That's not on the CWA agenda right now. I would also love to work again with the Gill Foundation, which is a gay foundation in Denver, to develop a program of peer training with Stonewall. But that's my dream. That's not a CWA objective right now. So I couldn't say that that's what CWA is about.
Yeah, you're correct. And I know that sometimes when people say something that is out from the organization, they mention, this is my opinion. It's not our goal. So just so they know that it's a difference there. Because otherwise, if you don't say anything, they take, oh, everybody thinks the same.
Well said. Exactly.
Okay, so I just thought we could briefly look at this again, and maybe next time we could focus more on this. But so say we have this Butte County Behavioral Health Board meeting coming up, and we want to talk about, let's say we want to talk about let's see, we would, let's say the issue of I don't know, what's a topic that we could talk about? The Iverson Center. We all know about the Iverson Center, right? So we want to advocate that the Iverson Center expands. Let's say that's our issue. We want to get a larger Iverson Center, that it's not meeting our needs as a community, and we would like to see it expand. And we would like the board's support on that. So what would be, just let's brainstorm, what would be the first step we would do in trying to come up with a group action plan for public comment?
Well, I would say, and I'm going to jump right in, define and frame our what we'd like to see, our vision for that. So for example, Andrea, I would choose different language rather than saying, we'd like to see Iverson Center expand, it's not meeting our needs, which may be correct and may be speaking for the community, true. But as CWHA, we would like to see Iverson Center expand because we see needs in the community
That aren't
that-
being met,
well, or that need to be met, that need meeting. And we would love to see, we would love to empower Iverson Center to meet those needs. So that's a real proactive kind of a
Right.
thing. And frankly, between ourselves, I don't know much about Iverson Center, but it might be said between us with a stake, you know, Iverson Center isn't getting it. But politically and as a CWHA position, we need to be very careful with our framing so that it's always promotional, it's always moving ahead, and it's never
backing.
well, yeah, never criticizing. For example, and I'll use an example from my profession as a hairdresser. If somebody comes to me for the first time, the last thing they want to hear from me is, boy, they really fucked your haircut up. What they want to know is what that's why they came to you, because they're not happy with their hair. So what they want to hear is what I can do for them. I can like a little bit of your haircut. What I'd like to see it go in this direction, and we could do that for you and get you feeling really good about it again. So am I beating a dead horse?
No, I think you're correct there, because, I mean, since I work at Iverson, if I would look at it from your perspective and put it in mine, yeah, it could be bigger. And maybe we should have a couple of more rooms. Because now in COVID, you can't fill in as many as you want. But with a few more rooms, we can take in more people to get help in groups. So you have that as an aspect that moves the question forward.
Yeah, good, yeah.
It sounds like our focus is on bringing back a true peer-centered drop-in center run by peers instead of having a bigger influence of county funds or whatever. We would just go about it in the way that we feel that we like to see peers that have experience with mental health issues be trained as peers providers, primarily for drop-in center.
Yeah, so you're coming with a solution, coming with an option, coming with an ask. Can we have this? You know, you're not just saying what's wrong, you're saying what can be or what you'd like to see. And that's always important, to come with an ask, right? We talked about that.
Anyone can complain, but that doesn't solve anything.
Right.
Right, we're not gonna beat that dead horse anymore. We just gotta go do our own thing, I think.
And so what we're doing here
Before we jump, I think this might be a good moment to talk about framing. Laura, I liked what you said. We would like to see peers, more peers. I remember that keyword that I've come to learn from you guys, which is lived experience.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful statement, rather than peers with mental health issues. Although
Right.
I have depression, and I'm in recovery from it. But lived experience is a really good frame for a broad range of people that stigma might still exist.
Okay,
And so, yeah, we'd like to see more peers with lived experience
right.
doing this or that,
Do,
or
yeah. Have,
and
yeah,
and with training in giving support, recovery support. Recovery support is also a key concept and a key talking point. Thanks, Andrea. I didn't mean to criticize you, Laura, but that's a really important point, that we are peers, that we do want plenty of peers out there, and how we frame that can get us there really effectively.
Yeah, and also that I've noticed that I was some members that coming in there and started to have their own group. They grow as a person. So that's very important because they get more and more involved. And they, just by taking that step, they can take another step. I've seen several examples on that.
I think that's wonderful, and it's at the heart of it. And if we wanted to give a real pithy description of that, that's what, at least in Crestwood, they refer to as resilience. And you're right, that's what groups do for me. That's why I love participating in group work. And that's why I've loved leading the group work that I've done, just because I become a more whole and fuller person. I become
Absolutely.
more of who I was meant to be. I remember who I am. I become more of who I'm meant to be. And that's resilience.
Yeah, you just don't help others, you even help yourself by doing it.
Oh, of course.
So I mean, it's good all around.
And I'm fully with you on the subject you're talking about. I'm just trying to throw key words and key talking points in that that really may mean something to someone who doesn't have our understanding. Because for someone who is a really high functioning individual, where everything for being more of a person comes very easy to them, they may not even be able to kind of step back and see that someone with a challenge would be in a group and would get that benefit. But if we can give it a concise description, resilience, recovery and resilience. Our people come to our groups and they become more of who they were meant to be, more fully functioning, more independent. Those are really all keywords that somebody who might not share our experience can latch onto and get meaning out of what we want to convey to them. I sound to myself like I'm preaching now.
Well, you are, but you're preaching good.
Hallelujah. Okay.
Amen,
yeah.
brother.
Somebody say amen. Thank you, Jesus. Well,
Well, I pulled it back to where it's a structure of public comment. So I just want to leave you guys with this thought of, so what we were doing was a perfect brainstorm of, if you were to meet with our group before public comment, like what we were talking about is like narrowing down our focus into those talking points. And then if you were to take what we were talking about and put it into this format, then you could divide it up between each other as well, you know what, you say this part about the groups, Ron, because you really understand what groups are about. And then Laura, you talk about, like, we talked about there needs to be more peer support, we need more, so we could break it down like that and put it into this so that each of us would have a real solid idea of what we were going to talk about going into that meeting, and humanize it by talking about your own experience, or and then our ask at the end is again going to be that goal that we started with. We want to see that Iverson get support to grow and be larger, right? So you could say that in however you wanted to for your ask, and then always thank the board. So I'm just bringing that back just to refresh, and then
That's great. Thank you.
yeah, and then we can revisit this, and I hope to revisit this, at least like once a month or something. We revisit it and maybe do some practicing or discuss, chances we've had to work on this. But the videos are available, so you can go back and refer to them anytime and look at, like, maybe, oh, you know what was that format for public comment? It's in there, right? So I'll stop sharing. I know we're already at 8 o'clock. So is there any last thoughts for the evening?
Boy, we got a lot done in this hour. I was kind of tired when we came into it, but I feel energized by getting to play with it with you all. So,
Well, it's the preacher in you.
well, but I commend us as a group for how much we got accomplished in this hour. I had self-doubts early on.
Yeah, I think it's, we're a small group today, but I think we did hit on a lot of our issues, and we talked about a lot of things, and I really appreciate that.
If we
And
wanted to make homework, we could take that topic as just a potential, expanding expanding Iverson Center, and our homework would be to apply the formula, that format that Andrea just had on screen, to that, and see what we come up with. We could work on that.
Yeah, in a way, that formula works for a lot of things. It doesn't stop just there. You can take that and put it in another subject, and it works the same way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I just thought, since we had kind of talked about Iverson, we got a jump start.
Yeah.
So I guess I do have a story. I was on the Iverson advisory team for over a year, and one of the things that I really wanted us to do was the parade in downtown Chico in April. So I started this plan at the advisory board, said, okay, this is what I like to do. This is what I'm looking at. This is what I see. Is it possible for us to get some management or leadership in here? We talked to Corla and several people about maybe getting some t-shirts that said Iverson on them so that we could walk in the parade. And then it went from that to, well, not enough people want to walk in the parade. And then it was, well, how about we just show up and meet and kind of play it by ear, and I'll buy pizza and we'll kind of make it happen from there. And nobody was interested. So once again, the next year I brought it up again and said, hey, the banner's going to be this much. And, we kind of hammered out a couple of more things. And then it was just, it didn't go. It was, no money, no whatever, no, I don't even know. But I actually did send the application to Iverson. And like I said, I was involved, and I don't really feel like my attempt to get that was a waste of time. If anything, I learned that, it takes a village. And I personally wasn't that village, no matter how many pieces I wanted to buy, so it was a good learning experience.
Yeah, you're getting into the area of what I learned is enrollment. And I have not been great at it, but we need to learn to enroll people into supporting our ideas. I really stumbled badly at Stonewall about that. So I'm with you on that. Maybe we can talk another time about enrollment.
Maybe that's a topic for training that we can work on in the
Mhm.
future, is having, maybe we can have a guest, since that doesn't seem to be our real strength, is our meeting attendance seems to be dwindling and dwindling. Maybe we can bring in somebody that can help us learn how to enroll people in our ideas, and maybe I can work on that, bringing in a guest to train. But anyway, well, is there any last thoughts? I think I'm about ready to, I've been in meetings all day. I'm kind of like, I'm kind of zoomed out. So
Would you be able to stay on with me for 5 minutes after we close to just answer a question about Venmo and Facebook Pay for me?
sure.
Would you have that? That'd be great. I'd appreciate it. Because
Right.
I'm kind of behind on I may be way too late on the toy drive. I had hoped to talk about that, but I'm kind of behind on that and slow, and I may still be able to salvage it, but I need your help, Andrea.
I'll send that Excel form to you, Rob.
Yeah,
You guys are going to meet up at Iverson on Thursday, right? So
I think
Ron
so,
and
yeah.
Laura. Okay. Cool.
Okay, well, good
10:30
night.
to 1.
Good night, Ron
everyone.
and Laura. Thank you so much.
Okay, night, bye.
Bye, Ron. Facebook Pay was new to me, Andrea. And in fact, when I clicked on the Facebook Pay, they had already slammed one of my credit cards in there. I had never entered that card in the Facebook Pay.
Oh,
I didn't feel good about that, but it does look like a kind of a nifty option for people.
yeah.
And that's on your fundraising on your personal page, right?
Yeah, I did it through did I do it through my personal? I think I did.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. I wonder if we could set Facebook Pay up on the CWHA group.
I don't know that we can, because it's like a private group, I think, and I don't know if I'm an administrator still or not. I don't know if
Hmm.
you can for a group page. I know there's a way to set it up for a nonprofit, but I think you have to be a nonprofit.
Okay, well, we'll look at that for down the road. But more specifically, we do have a Venmo account.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone to access that, they would have to have the Venmo app themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and they would have to enter a credit card. But what's the name of our Venmo account? How would I get people to our Venmo page?
I'll put it in the chat box so it's easier to show you.
Okay. I'll open up chat.
So the handle is at Butsiwa, and they have to make sure to look for a business account.
Yeah, there's a personal or business buttons, right?
Yeah.
So you would go to, you
So
would
they,
open the Venmo app,
yeah.
and then enter at Butsiwa,
Mm-hmm.
and then go to business button,
Mm-hmm.
and then where does that take you?
Well, I think you would search it, and then the one that is ours has our logo on the picture.
Okay. And then click on our logo, and then they would have to have their credit card, and I'll play with it. I think I just got way behind on making that effective for the toy drive. So what I think I'll do is I'll make a contribution to CWHA, buy some toys. I'll still leave that up. I'll still publicize that and take late contributions.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
I just waited way too long to really get on the stick on that one.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't really have time to look at the email and
Yeah,
know
I
what you
understand.
needed and stuff, so
No,
I
I understand.
apologize.
That's okay. No, really, honestly, I'm not upset about it. I am just way behind. Well, okay, well, it's been a real productive evening, and I know you're tired, and I'm glad I've had the day off and have the day off tomorrow. Um, You inspire me every time you show me something new that you know that I don't know, something new, some new capacity that you have, some new knowledge that you have. I'm pleased to be working with you. I'm pleased for the time that I do get to command from you. Thank you.
Same here. You teach me a lot too, and I'm just really tired and distracted tonight, so I apologize.
No, that's okay. And
I
you,
was
you probably missed the whole game, huh?
I've had it on my phone. I've been watching it and I'm really mad at my team because they're 4 points down and it's the last minute and they blew their 2 chances to get in the end zone.
Mm, How
So
disappointing. That's Denver, right?
Buffalo, and
Oh,
this is a
Buffalo.
pivotal game because they could take back the division with this game, and if they lose it, they're probably not going to take the division.
Will they
And
get to
it's
the
looking like,
playoffs?
well,
Or
they
is
might
this,
still get to the playoffs, but they won't be a division champion. They'll get in a wild card if they don't win it back.
uh,
Anyway, I'm just like so angry right now. Like they were right there twice, and then they missed a field goal, so it's like a 4 point game.
that's the heartbreak of sports, isn't
I
it? I
know.
I used to love it when the this goes way back when the 49ers back in the 80s were winning, and the what was Oakland's football team?
The Raiders.
The Oh yeah, the Raiders. No, I guess I'm thinking of the Oakland A's were winning in baseball. The A's were winning. It was just so great. I can't stand the heartbreak.
I know.
Okay.
The Bills are good at heartbreak, man. They always get you right close. We got to the championship last time and lost. And
Oh,
2 years before we got to the playoffs and lost. It's like, man. And
oh
they're
shit.
notorious because they've been to the Super Bowl 3 times and lost all 3 times.
Can't get across the finish line.
I really thought they were going to make it this year, and they've had really stupid losses. Stupid losses that didn't make
Uh,
any sense. The worst team in the league, and they lost to them. I was like, what the? They just are inconsistent, and it's just like so infuriating. It's like, come
so
on.
so then I guess the only reward of that is to actually go ahead and turn against them and complain about them. And then you're back on top again. Okay, well, Andrea, thanks. I'll say goodnight and talk to you soon.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Have a good night, Kevin. Bye.